The night beckons. What is it now? That was my plan. Greetings. What is it now? Greetings. Die. What is it now? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? What is it now? Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. I hunger. That was my plan. Death rages. I hunger. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. Die. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Greetings. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. Death rages. You thought of that? Very well. What is it now? I hunger. That was my plan.
Welcome to our village.
Must hunt soon. Death rages. Very well. What is it now? Agreed. I hunger. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. I must hunt soon. Agreed. You thought of that? Death rages. Greetings. That was my plan. Agreed. I must hunt soon. Very well. Agreed. What mortal? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. Die. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that?
Our allies' hero has
That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? I hunger. That was my plan. You thought of that? What is it now? What, mortal? What is it now? Greetings. What is it now? Very well. You thought of that? I must hunt soon. That was was my plan.
Our allied town is
Very
being
well.
attacked.
Greetings. What, mortal? What is it now? Who thought of that? That was my plan. I must hunt soon. Die. Agreed. What, mortal? Very well. What is it now? What, mortal? I hunger. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? Death rages. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. I must hunt soon. You thought of that? What is it now? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? What, mortal?
Our allies' hero has been slain.
Hunt soon. That was my plan. Agreed. I hunger. Die. What is it now? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed.
We're under attack.
That? What, mortal? Very well. Death rages. Agreed. What is it now? What, mortal? That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. I must hunt soon. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? What is it now? What, mortal? That was my plan. Die. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. What is it now? Soon. Very well. Greeting. What, mortal? I must hunt soon. What, mortal? Greetings. Agreed. What, mortal? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that?
Hello there.
Greetings. That was my plan. Your soul is mine. Agreed. What, mortal? I hunger. Greetings. You thought of that? What, mortal? What is it now? Very well. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? What?
Our allies'
mortal?
hero has been slain.
What is it now? What, mortal? You thought of that? That was my plan.
Our allied town is being attacked.
I must hunt soon. Agreed. Very well. What is it now? You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Die. I hunger. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. What, mortal? Very well. Agreed. Greetings. Very well.
Our allies' hero has been slain.
What, mortal? Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that?
We're under
What is it
attack.
now? Very well. Agreed. Death rages. What, mortal? You thought of that? Agreed.
Greetings, friend.
Greetings. What is it now? What, mortal? That was my plan. That was my plan.
We're under attack.
Greetings. I must hunt soon. What, mortal? You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. I must hunt soon. What is it now? You thought of that? That was my plan. Death rages. You thought of that?
Our hero has been slain. Our allied town is being attacked.
Night beckons. Agreed. What, mortal? Agreed. What is it now? hunt soon. Very well. Greetings. What, mortal? That was my plan. I hunger. Very well. Greetings. That was my plan. I must hunt soon. Death rages. What, mortal? I must hunt soon. What is it now? Very well. That was my plan.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Greetings. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Die. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Death rages. Very well. You thought of that? Die. That was my plan. Agreed.
Our
Very well.
allies' hero has been
You
slain!
thought of that? What is it now? Agreed. I must hunt soon. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. What, mortal? Greetings.
We're under
Agreed.
attack!
I must hunt soon. You thought of that? That was my plan. Greetings. Very well. I must hunt soon. What, mortal? That was my plan. Death rages. Greetings. Very well. Agreed. I hunger. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Your soul is mine. Death rages. That was my plan. What, mortal? You thought of that? Agreed. I hunger. What is it now? Death rages. What, mortal? You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well.
Hello there.
I
We're
must
under
hunt
attack!
soon. Greetings. You thought of that? Very well. What, mortal? Die. You thought of that? What is it now? Agreed. You thought of that? Greetings. Agreed. You thought of that? What, mortal? Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. I must hunt soon. that? Very well. I hunger. Agreed. Very well. Death rages. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? What, mortal? Agreed. That was my plan. Greetings. You thought of that?
We need
What
more
is it now?
gold.
That was my
Our
plan.
allied town is being attacked. We're under
What?
attack.
I must hunt.
Our hero has been slain. Our allied town is being attacked. Our allied town is being attacked.
Night beckons. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. What is it now? Greetings. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan.
Our hero has been slain. Our allied town is being attacked.
Night beckons.
Our allies' hero has been slain.
Agreed. I must hunt soon. Greetings. That was my plan. I must hunt soon. What, mortal? Greetings. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. What is it now? That was my plan. What, mortal? You thought of that? Greetings. Die. Death rages.
town is being attacked!
That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? That was my plan. What mortal? Very well. I hunger. Agreed. Die.
We're under attack!
Very well. You thought of that?
Welcome to our village.
What is it now? Your soul is mine. Death rages. You thought of that? I hunger. That was my plan. What, mortal? You thought of that? Death rages.
Our allied town is being attacked!
I must hunt soon. What is it now? Very well. I hunger. That was my plan. What mortal? Greetings. Death rages. I hunger. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. What, mortal? You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Greetings.
Our allied hero has been slain!
You thought of that? Very well. Die. You thought of that? That was my plan. I must hunt soon. Very well. Mortal. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. I hunger. Death rages. That was my plan. That was my plan. Your soul is mine. You thought of that? What mortal? Death rages. I hunger. That was my plan. Very well. Death rages. That was my plan. You thought of that? I hunger. Die. Greetings. That was my plan. I must hunt soon.
Our hero has been slain.
Beckons. Very well.
Our allied town is being attacked. Our allies' hero has been
That
slain.
was my plan. I must hunt soon. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed.
Research complete.
Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Very well. What, mortal? Greetings. I hunger. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was... I must hunt soon. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Death rages. Agreed. What is it? I hunger. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. Death rages. I hunger. Die. Death rages. I hunger. Agreed. thunder. That was my plan. Agreed. Your soul is mine.